I hope that all of you are doing very well. Let me see. Throw this over here a little bit. Trying to get me centered up a little bit. I hope all of y'all are blessed. Thank you for being here with me today. Of course, I'm Cameron. This is Power Inherent in the People. All of us are this channel. It's not just me. All of you make up this channel because we are going to continuously show how we will not stand for our securities, our liberties, our God-given natural rights to be violated anymore. If you're with us for the first time, welcome. Hey, we go through law. We try to figure out everything we possibly can to make sure that we're securing our liberties and standing up on them, and that we are having honorable people with integrity, morality, and everything else that's included in that as far as being our public servants are concerned. This is part 9 of the most sacred liberties. This is a series. I don't like to take up too much of my time on these intros for this series because I know you're ready to get info. If you're at part 9, then you're good to go. So let's get right into it, okay? I love the information. I don't like to be long talking too much, so I just want to get right into it for y'all. I know that's what y'all all want anyways. So we left off from taxation in part 8. In this section, we are going to be going through the constitutional, excuse me one second, the constitutional charter authority, which is understanding your contract. Your contract. Yes, you have a contract. You want to be in this contract, though. This is the contract you want to be in, okay? Yes, together we stand and divided we fall. Exactly, Vicious. Nice to see you again. What's up, Joe Cool? What's up, Joe Bravo? What's up? I'm here for the chain bang. Oh, God. What's up, Wasamata? Ooh, okay, I like it. The pig's daughter as well. Hey, how are all of y'all doing? I'm glad to appreciate y'all being here. All right, so let's get into it. Nearly every aspect of the scope of this writing was summarized by Albert Stickney. Stickney. It's a very similar name to some of my family members. 112 years ago. It's quite a long time. Everything basic needed to understand the right of travel, the privilege of commerce, and the authority of state control is contained in the first paragraphs. And has always been held in a public one is that such a road is a highway, whether made by the government itself or made by the agency of corporate bodies, or even by individuals, when they obtain their power to construct it from the legislative grant. Whether the use of a railroad is a public or private one depends in no measure upon the question who constructed it or who owns it. It has never been considered a matter of any importance that the road was built by the agency of a private corporation. No matter who is the agent, the function performed is that of the state. Though the ownership is private, the use is public. The owners may be private companies, but they are compellable to permit the public to use their works in the manner in which such works can be used. That all persons may not put their own cars upon the road and use their own motive power has no bearing upon the question whether the road is a public highway. It bears only upon the mode of use, of which the legislature is the exclusive judge. All public highways are subjects of general state jurisdiction because their uses are the common property of the public. This principle of the common law is in this state of universal application. As to the class of public highways known as railways, the common law is fortified. The common law is fortified. The common law is fortified by the express conditions of the statutes creating or regulating or controlling them. Further, on other public highways, every person may be his own carrier. On other public highways, every person may be his own carrier. What's up, my brother Joe? Or he may hire whomsoever he will to do that service. Between him and such employee, a special and personal relation exists, independent of any public duty, and in which the state can and shall and will have no interest. State control of trade and commerce. State control of trade and commerce, not state control of public highways in which the public owns and uses to go from point A to point B. It says state control of trade and commerce. When are you going to understand that the roads are all about trade and commerce? By national or state authority. Citation 1897 or circa, whatever they use that for. A book by Albert Strickney of the New York Bar. Of the New York Bar. So even the bar knew this back then. So even the bar knew this back then. Citing People versus New York Central, etc. Quote, again, he's continuing. I believe this may still be from the same. So this brings us to inquire as to the principles upon which this power of regulation rests, in order that we may determine what is within and what without its operative effect. Looking then to the common law, from whence came the right which the Constitution protects, we find that when private property is affected with a public interest, it ceases to be juris privati only. This was said by Lord Chief Justice Hale more than 200 years ago in his treatise De Portibus Maris 1 Harg LTR 78, and has been accepted without objection as an essential element in the law of property ever since. Property does become clothed with a public interest when used in a manner to make it of public consequence and affect the community at large. When, therefore, one devotes his property to a use in which the public has an interest, he, in effect, grants the public an interest in that use and must submit to be controlled by the public for the common good to the extent of interest he has thus created. He may withdraw his grant by discontinuing the use, of course, but so long as he maintains the use, he must submit to the control. Thus, as to ferries, Lord Hale says, Lord Hale, we're calling him Lord Hale in this thing, in his treatise, De Jure Morris 1 Harg, LTR 6, the king has, quote, a right of franchise or privilege that no man may set up a common ferry for all passengers without a prescription time out of mind or a charter from the king. Well, guess what? Oh, I'll keep going. He may make a ferry for his own use or the use of his family, but not for the common use of all the king's subjects passing that way, because it doeth, in consequence, tend to a common charge, and is become a thing of public interest and use. And every man for his passage pays a toll, which is a common charge. And every ferry ought to be under a public regulation, that it give attendance at due times, keep a boat in due order, and take but reasonable toll. For if he fail in these, he is finable. Unquote. But you got to remember, we're the kings now. We don't have no kings no more. So we need to be speaking and understanding this in our own manner. That was this contract. I'll keep going. So if one owns the soil and landing places on both banks of a stream, he cannot use them for the purposes of a public ferry, except upon terms I'm imposed. And this because the common good requires that all public ways shall be under the control of public authorities. This privilege or prerogative of the king, who in this connection only represents and gives another to the body politic, is not primarily for his profit, but for the protection of the people and the promotion of general welfare. This statement of the law by Lord Hale was cited with the approbation and acted upon by Lord Kenyon at the beginning of the present century, 1800, in Bolt versus Stinnett. State control, again, of trade and commerce by national or state authority. Again, Albert Stickney. Okay. And here's the last one, I believe the third one. One further consideration may be added. The United States Supreme Court has laid down the following as one of the guiding principles in the interpretation of statutes. Quote, even in construing the terms of a statute, courts must take notice of the history of legislation. Must take notice of the legislation. What's going on, Daryl? How's it going, Daryl? Must take notice of the history of the legislation. So if something's already been dictated as free and cannot be unencumbered and is, how could then somewhere along the line the legislation be brought through statute, which it's not, it's the interpretation of the treasonous courts, to as the statute, or that everyone is driving. They're not, even though all legal terms itself. It's very odd. So it's the problem. It's us knowing the knowledge, stating that knowledge, and then when treasonous judges, administrators, right, especially on the statutory side, act out of line, we then need to appeal and pursue with judicial complaints and Brady complaints. We got to start enforcing these things. Then that'll lead us on to civil and filing a civil suit. So let's see. History of legislation. Out of the different possible constructions, select and apply the one that best comports with the genius of our institutions, and there is therefore most likely to have been the construction intended by law-making power. The history of legislation, as set forth in the preceding pages, seems to make it clear that attempts to control the contractual freedom of persons engaged in trade and commerce have been found unwise and pernicious. I don't know. I forget. The genius of our institutions is overwhelmingly in favor of emancipation from all restrictions on complete contractual freedom. Now, in public employments, wise jurists and wise legislators are well agreed that the individual citizen must have all needful protection at the hands of the state. But what are we to say of the latest attempt and its person who can't apparently or try to go beyond the statute by bringing in broad interpretations that go well beyond the statute's limitations? Well beyond. You know what that's called? That's called prosecutorial misconduct. You prosecutors ain't immune no more. We learning. I'm putting my foot down. And I'm talking about the real one. I ain't put the fake one down yet. And that one's got steel and titanium in it. I'll tell you right now, I kick you with this bad boy in the shin. You're going down. Real quick. It's hard. But what are we to say of the latest attempt at state control of trade and commerce in private employments? Again, this is coming out of, you might want to pick up this book. I know my book's good, and I've been trying to push my book as hard as possible, but you might be able to find this on archive.org, okay? And we might have to go through that. I love giving education, so this might be a book that we get into. So let's continue on with the paper. We're outside of the book now, and it's quotes. So there are many judicial rulings, both at the state and federal level. Both judicial rulings. Okay, which will indicate that a driver's license is not a contract. Oh, what? Cameron? Is Cameron wrong? Oh, I love it when I'm wrong. That means I'm trying to learn. What you got going on here now? Tell me. The application for a driver's license does not create a contract. Neither does the possession of the driver's license. What? What? Oh my God, now I'm getting mind blown. Dude, don't do this to me in the middle of the document. It is, however, an application for permission to engage in offering a public service as a driver. Okay, all right, I'm with you. To a publicly oriented business. Okay, you got to have a business too then, what you're saying. Okay, so whether that be for a business outright or a business colorable. Oh, thank you for being specific. It is now undoubtedly and without dispute that to be driving is to be either an employee or a subcontractor, or in some instances, a sublet. The vehicle operator, clearly this is in parentheses or italicized for a reason, is the employer contractor. So there's one aspect of has to be, one element. Numero uno element is the vehicle operator has to be employed or contracted, which creates the contract, while the driver is the employee, subcontractor, or sublet. Let's get into some details. So let us use tow trucks, like God-fearing towing out there in Stevens, who really ain't God-fearing. Let us use tow trucks, taxi cabs, and moving companies for reference, because they are the three most well-known forms of vehicles and transport persons and property for compensation. Each of the three operators usually have a fleet of vehicles, aka motor vehicles. aka motor vehicles, which are owned by typically one company, the employer or contractor. Each of the three operators either lease the vehicle slash motor vehicle to subcontract drivers or are driven by employees. There are a variety of factors which determine that relationship. One, numero uno. The operator owns the vehicle and hires employee drivers to execute the business transaction with the public. Two, dos. Deuce, or we just be chunking up the deuce down in Texas. The deuce, you there? The operator owns the vehicle but leases it to a subcontract driver, assigning an element of risk and de facto benefit to the driver, whereby the subcontract driver would have to insure the vehicle to protect the operator's interest. So, two examples above should not be or limiting to establish the relationship with. And for the purposes of discussion, below is established plausibility for both. Starting with the Constitution of the state of Washington. The state constitution is tantamount to the Magna Carta. So when, you know what, okay, which is simply stated a charter. So I gotta do this. So I've seen plenty times where people are out there and they're talking, to the, actually, it was Luis. I even heard Luis say this. Luis says, yeah, man, a lot of these principles go back to the Magna Carta. He's talking to one of the deputies, right? And the guy goes, whoa, the Magna Carta. He's looking around like, huh, the Magna Carta, like, how does that connect? And it's like, the education, we just got to get our education up. I really think that that's what it boils down to, because these things have been well established for a very, very long time. Very long time. They probably a lot of the times only applied to kings too, right? But we are the kings now. You are the queens now. You see what I'm saying? We are completely free. You will always be completely free until you allow someone to make you feel as though you're not, and you submit to that freedom. You will always be free until you submit. Okay? So never submit. They only operate and win by your submission. Stand and never accept what they say. If you know that you are always right in everything that you do, you will never lose, no matter what they do to you. And you will be able to find the way, because the great creator is going to work through you to find the right way. But you have to stand in honor. You have to stay in proper morality. You have to KTC. You got to keep the code. And you have to be MHOE, which is most high over everything. And let everything work through you. That's how it goes. With honor, integrity, wisdom, knowledge, respect. You will never lose, bro. I promise you, you will never lose. Because you'll never lose because you never lost within. Do you understand that? You will never lose because you never lost within. Go watch that movie Braveheart. Never lost within. Never lost within. Thereby, he never lost. You think this is it? You think this is the only life that we live? Oh, you are sadly mistaken. You've been here before. You're going to be here again. Let's continue. Perceptions are everything and perspectives are everything. And I just want to know that my perspective is of my own, but it is not absolute. And I always welcome everybody to come forth and bring your perspective to me, because my perspective can always be subjective. Bamboo, I sway in the wind, bro. I ain't finna break like no oak. So let's go. Now we are in the Constitutional Article 1, Declaration of Rights, Section 16, in relation to eminent domain. No property shall be taken or damaged for public or even for private use without just compensation having been first made. Well. Again, remember, our Constitution is the foundation. States go on top and try to rectify in detail, but cannot override the foundation. They cannot become the below and try to put their own foundation by using statutory law. It don't work that way. Whenever an attempt is made to take private property for use alleged to be public, the question whether the contemplated use be really public shall be a judicial question and determined as such without regard to any legislative assertion that the use is public. Constitutional Article 12. Corporations other than municipal. Section 1. Corporations how formed. All corporations doing business in this state may, as to such business, be regulated, limited, or restrained by law. Businesses. Okay? Section 10, eminent domain affecting. The exercise of the right of eminent domain shall never be so abridged or construed as to prevent the legislature from taking the property and franchises in incorporated companies and subjecting them to public use, the same as property of individuals. Yes, boy, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll take that one too. Section 13, common carriers. Regulation of common carriers, not individuals in their own private capacity, but common carriers. All railroad, canal, and other transportation companies are declared to be common carriers and subject to legislative control. The only thing that's subject to legislative control. The only. 18 or section 18, rates for transportation. And we know what transportation means. It's a commercial term. The legislation passed laws establishing reasonable rates of charges for the transportation of passengers and freight, and to correct abuses and prevent discrimination and extortion in the rates of freight and passenger tariffs on the different railroads and other common carriers in this state, and shall enforce such laws by adequate penalties. A railroad and transportation commission may be established and its powers and duties fully defined by law. So, which one, that transportation commission, did they form? Which one? Give me an answer in the chat. What agency did they formulate in relation to a transportation commission that regulates all transportation? I want to see it, please. Can we get some comments? What department is it? What department? DMV, no, that's Department of Motor Vehicles. We're talking about Transportation Commission. Which department? It's the Department of Transportation. So if the Department of Transportation was the commission that they ended up forming, the agency, and it is fully taking care of only those who are in transportation of freights and passengers, and they are defined as common carriers in business, why are you out there applying for a DOL number? Why are you applying for a DOL number then, if it's only for businesses? Something you got to look at. I'm not getting into no other contracts. I don't have to. It's well established. Okay? Now, a railroad and transportation commission. Yep, we did that. So a service, italicized, is said to be performed. Business, service. You can use using roads for business, service. Services, business is commerce. You got that? Service, business, commerce. Service, business, commerce is said to be performed when one takes to perform a task or duty for which there is no instruction, guidance, or assistance from the party receiving the benefit of said service. However, a service may still be performed if the parties agree that the beneficial party assumes some portion of the risk for consideration. So, in the case of the taxi and tow truck company, they provide a service and therefore provide the driver. That driver may be either a subcontractor or an employee, depending on their agreement. In the case of the moving company, they hold out their business to the public, but they are considered a private contract carrier because they provide a private service and do not hold open their businesses or their business for general public at large, as would a bus company or ferry service. Moreover, the moving company may provide a driver and his employee, or it may sublet the vehicle and allow the sublet to drive the vehicle or their hired driver. All of these are commercial terms, I hope you know. When I'm putting the inflect on these words, it's because they're commercial terms. We're using them in our common linguistics as though they are not in our common dictionary. Hey, within these statutes and all the legalese and all the paperwork, it's a total one employed, baby boy. The moving company, like the car rental service below, would agree to sublet or contract to a person in consideration of a reduced fee for the interest. Now, if a person, which has several meanings, corporation, organization, trust, I mean, it goes on and on. County, it can be a county. If you look at person in Black Law's dictionary, it is huge how many things that person can be. It's not just, hey, that person over there said so. Well, that person could be a corporation. Remember that. If a person rents a vehicle from a car rental service company, he will be required to sign a contract agreement to provide a driver or at a minimum have a driver's license, which is the same thing. Now, hold up. I got to do one thing with this person real quick too. Remember, if in the statute itself, within the state, if it says every person shall have, okay, we got to do this real quick. We got to do this real quick. If in the statute it says, let's say we're talking about a driver's license now for a second, right? And it says, and we're looking at a driver's license and the definition and then the legalese and language, and it says, every person on the highway shall have. That statute ain't gonna work. Rule of litany right away. You wanna know why? Because the statute is too broad. You wanna know why it's too broad? Too much ambiguity there? You wanna know why? Because person has so many different things. So many different things. You're saying every person? What do you mean by every person? Do you mean every person as in a corporation? Does it say every person in relation to every meaning of person after it says every person? Law gets deep. It is a chess move. Okay? They know what they're doing when they intentionally put every person. Intentionally, they know what they're doing. They're making it broad. So broad that you can apply certain rules and doctrines to say, I am not a person. And you didn't make it clear by saying, and individuals, natural living beings. You just put in person, which could mean so many things. These are the technicalities. These are the deeper aspects of understanding legalese. You don't got to be a lawyer to understand that. These are the technicalities in which we maneuver with, right? I'm not going to make the announcement on this video. I'm just going to say Tower of Law. On the boys. So, we stopped somewhere around, I think right here. Yeah. So, likewise, signing a contract. Let me highlight it. Likewise, signing. Oh, I'm glad I looked. See, I looked. Y'all just got to stare at my ugly face. Let me see. Get back over here. Back up. Preview. Okay. Likewise, signing a contract to provide the lessor with his insurance company information or purchase insurance from their insurance provider. A person provides insurance and a driver. He is a sublet contractor. If, however, a person purchases the service fully at the lessor's proviso, then he is merely contracting a service from a private carrier. Oh, now we're getting even deeper. Okay, I see where he's going with this. I see where you're going. You're going even deeper. I love it. Because we ain't going down a rabbit hole. We're not getting deeper into a rabbit hole. We're getting deeper into knowledge. That's all this is. Our comprehensions are expanding. So, while the question of contract as to driver's license is settled law, it remains a clever focus of clandestine artifice. I would agree. The vehicle license actually created a contract because it is the business. The term contract means to come together and make as agreement. assimilate. Beautiful, beautiful, great. I love this. To say that one agrees to be bound by the motor vehicle code can be established merely by asking if there are license plates on the vehicle. Here's why. The individual consented to convey the property, the automobile, to state legislative control. Oh, you gave it up. You waived your rights. You gave it up. You conveyed your property to the state control. I don't know. I won't, bro. You see? Right there. Here's why. The individual consented to convey the property, your automobile, to the state legislative control. Start with the Constitution of the State of Washington, Declaration of Rights, Constitutional Article 1, Section 1, political power, that all political power is inherent in you, in me, in the community. Ooh, I made that rhyme. And governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. On the idea of consent, the legal maxim of law is stated thus, meaning the king cannot load a subject with impositions against his consent. I'm a king. I'm a king. My daughter's done told me I'm the best daddy in the world. I win the best daddy award. I'm the king. I got, you know what? What? Let me throw on my #1 dad award for y'all. Okay? Let me throw on the #1 dad. I'm throwing on the #1 dad award. Okay? It's getting thrown on today. Okay? I'm the king of my castle. I'm the king of my body. I'm the king of myself in this reality. A king don't mean you got to go out and have subjects. A true king, a king in definition, is going to be someone who is going to lead because the people want him to lead or her to lead. You see what I'm saying? We are all kings and queens, man. All of us. They can never take that away from you, ever. Unless you let them. Unless you submit. Okay? Let me get over here. Entire screen again. We're going to get back to share. Y'all chatting over here? Okay, sorry, I'm not reading chats right now because this one's our educational series. I just went live for it instead of recording it. Okay? Let's continue. Automobile with the state. He has consented and given a security to the state. You developed a contract. This can be verified by looking, there we go, to UCC. Chapter 9. I told you we're going to get there. And if you look at UCC 9-109, you'll find that your automobile is actually determined a household good. It is your private property. Just like a refrigerator, just like my desk, okay? Just like my couches, okay? They're all household goods under Chapter 9, UCC 1-109 or 9-109. Okay, so the state now has perfected security interest in the vehicle by issuance of a certificated title of ownership. See inter alia, UCC 9. Ownership by corporate standard means only a secured interest. Oh my God. Oh my God. Did you know that one? They can literally say and deem ownership of your property just by having a secured interest. Now do you see how they get you? So now you know, without a shadow of a doubt, you can go into UCC 9 at your own leisure right now or later because we will. But you are clearly seeing how they utilize. You don't know. You know now. But they can't use it no more because we know. So if that be the case, UCC 9 is giving them ownership by security interest only, by you establishing a contract and registering the vehicle. Gets deep, don't it? Do they tell you this? They don't tell you all this, do they? They don't tell you all this. Are you expected to know all this when entering? Or are they expected to that they're supposed to advise you of this? Uh-oh. Now we're getting into deeper principles that can be brought up in court. Null and void, fraud, treason. To say governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed is, in fact, a contract agreement. To further expound this statement is to look at the following definition. The phrase valuable adequate consideration. I just said it. If they're not telling you up front, it's null and void. Let's go. The phrase valuable and adequate consideration used in Act Congress June 30, 1864. C. 173, Section 132, declaring that if any person shall by deed or of gift or other assurance of title made without valuable and adequate consideration, and purporting to vest the estate, either immediately or in the future, vest the estate. You are the estate. I am the estate. Convey any real estate, such disposition shall be taken to confer upon the grantee. The succession means either money paid or some present legal interest or estate parted with or charged or services rendered to the value of properties received. I'm going to hit him with the, oh, yeah, I'm taking that one over, buddy. Sorry. Oh, it's mine now. We taking that. Oh. Judicial and statutory definitions of words and phrases. West Publishing Co., 1905. Citing United States versus Banks. Man, we have received so many great quotes from United States versus Banks. You might want to download this one, y'all. This one would be a great one to have with you to have conversations with yourself or anybody, or ChatGPT, whatever you feel pleased to do. Now, when applying for title, whereby registering the now vehicle, aka starting a business, the state obviously could not take the automobile from an individual, saving fair market payment without a minimum giving or perhaps taking valuable consideration. So I want you to understand what's going on. Do you see what's happening here? When you are establishing this contract, you are actually establishing a contract and business with the state, giving them ownership. And I believe what he's about to go into is you are thereby becoming the leasee. Now we're getting to the bottom of it. Dang. Now we understand why they operating like they are in the courts. Dang. But if there ain't no contract, they can't do it. And if you assume that there's a contract in place without first not establishing such, then you will be held liable. You can't make a presumption. If anybody I can't do that right now. Okay, we're moving forward. AKA starting a business. The state obviously could not take the automobile from an individual, saving fair market payment without a minimum giving or perhaps taking valuable consideration. So if there is no contract or registration in place, then if you take the vehicle, you must have payment at saving fair market value. You can't take it without giving payment because there is no contract. Man, this is a big one. Giving or perhaps taking valuable consideration. If you're not in contract and they take your property and tow it away from you when there's no contract in place, as seen below, defined in law, valuable consideration consists of anything that has value. Accordingly, everything is assigned value. That does not mean everything has a monetary value, only that some value attaches. For example, sentimental value. So, value in se is not indicative of proprietary interest, albeit value may be intrinsic or extrinsic. Now, as seen below, the vehicle business has value because the state has considered the mutual financial benefit. In derogation, though, the loss of a driver's license occurs in consideration of the failure to keep the business within regulatory standards. I love it. Judicial and Statutory Definitions of Words and Phrases, Volume 8, West Publishing Co., 1905. So, valuable consideration. A valuable consideration in the sense of law may consist either of some right, interest, profit or benefit accruing to the one party. Well, I got interest. If I'm out there driving on my driver's license though, and I haven't gotten in trouble in a very, very long time, where's the accruing benefit and interest to me? You see how deep this can get now? Oh man. Got to talk about valuable consideration, get some deep conversations going, okay? Or some forbearance, detriment, loss, or responsibility given, suffered, or undertaken by the other. Quote, a valuable consideration is one that is either a benefit to party promising or some trouble or prejudice to the party to whom the promise is made. Any damage or suspension or forbearance of a right will be sufficient to sustain the promise, unquote. That is, a benefit or advantage accruing to the party who makes the promise, or some inconvenience or injury sustained by the party to whom the promise is made, is sufficient to support a contract. Holman versus Steele. Quote, a valuable consideration is such as money, marriage, or the like, which the law esteems an equivalent for the grant, and is therefore founded in motives of justice, unquote. A valuable consideration as deemed in the books means money or any other thing that bears a known value. As much may be inferred from the word consideration as from the word value. We're getting into deeper principles here, which I love it because this will lead us on into UCC and everything else that we need to go over, unquote. And that's Jackson versus Alexander. Okay. Another one is a valuable consideration means and necessarily requires under every form and kind of purchase something of actual value, capable in the estimation of law of pecuniary measurement, parting with money or money's worth, or an actual change of the purchaser's legal position for the worse. To constitute a valuable consideration as against exercising creditors, the consideration recited, if relied on, must be such as will evidence an obligation on the part of the creditor that the grantee could have enforced against him or his estate. So, a valuable consideration is a thing of value parted with, or a new obligation assumed at the time of obtaining a thing, which is substantial compensation for that which is obtained thereby. It is also called simply value. Deeper principles, deeper understandings, better knowledge. We can move in honor and capacity by knowing these things which other people do not, which we give some sort of authority or illegal title of nobility to actually operate. It's wild. So, in the dissection of constitutional provisions, remember, the people went to them and applied. The state did not come to the people. Oh, I love that. Because nobody's telling you right when you turn 18 and you buy your car, you must have a driver's license. Nobody's coming to you. They are allowing you to come to them. You are the one asking for consent and permission to do something which would otherwise be illegal. The state did not, per se, take the private property. Constitutional Article 1, Section 16, eminent domain. No private property shall be taken for public use without just compensation having been first made. Quote, the legislature represents the public. So far as concerns the public, it may authorize one use today and another and a different use tomorrow. If the new use affects private rights, one more time for effect, if the new use affects private rights, proceeding for condemnation may have to be invoked. Proceedings for condemnation may have to be invoked. Have we been invoking them? But so far as it affects the public alone, it's representative. In the absence of constitutional restraint, may do as it pleases. I'm going to do what I please. The law applied to motor vehicles, Babbitt, Section 40 at 111, citing People versus Wash. So Section 16 tells us that the state now owns, has perfected security interest in what was the personal automobile, which is now a public vehicle. So we must read the charter colorably. Why? Why? Why are we going to read it colorably? Because it's under colorable law. Because the charter tells us that the state only attempted. This is because they threatened statutory sanction, and we consented to fear of the unknown, fear from ignorance. Again, it's all ignorance and wisdom and knowledge. That's it. When I say we need traffic law reform, yes, it would be great to change all of this and put it in bold statutory language so that no judge or administrative clerk can cause these kind of problems like we're currently having. But again, most of you already have a contract with the state that gives a security interest, which means ownership in your vehicle. Cold cut clear, y'all. You're learning it today on 9 spiral number 9. That good old Fibonacci. You're learning it on 9 today. Number 9. Okay? Fear of the unknown. When you know, are you going to have fear? Or do you lose it all? Put it to you like this. This is a great example. Let's do it like this. When I was a kid, I remember going out with my pops and my uncle and my fam. And Shane and Sean, this story's about y'all. I think we went out to Big Bend in Texas. And quite a few times. And there's a huge cliff, man. Huge cliff. We were all scared. We'd climb up that bad boy, go all the way out there. So scared, so fearful. It's a big cliff, y'all. It's huge. We'd be so scared to jump off into the water. And I'd sit there and watch person after person jump in that bad boy. My fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown that I'm going to land safely and come back up okay. Ignorance. The ignorance of me not knowing by doing so I'll be okay. Even though I'm seeing all of them do it, fear kept me back. Until I let go of that fear and put all faith in myself and the great creator. You couldn't stop me from jumping after that. I'd never look back. There's no way I'm going to go back to fear when I walk right back up to the ridge again. You see what I'm saying? Once you learn and know, there's no way that you're going back to being fearful again. Let's see, let's get back in this bad boy. Go up, preview. Okay? So where we at? We was at fear, wherever the fear was at. Where was we at? Fear of the unknown. So the charter also tells us for use alleged to be public, alleged, assumed, assumptions, presumptions. See also the section on use of the highways earlier. The question for use is to be judicially determined. However, section 16 read literally says, if there is a dispute as to whether the use was public or not, the judiciary shall resolve the dispute, provided that the question is determined as such to be public, regardless of the legislative intent. It is most certainly public because consent was given conveying personal property to the public state, and not one judge will adjudicate otherwise. Oh, now we know why. Now we know why they don't hold it up in court, don't we? Why do you think I don't have my car registered with the state? Why do you think there were never any tickets issued in Hood River? Because my car, he straight up said, well, they said your car hasn't been registered in 2 years. That's right. You don't own it. You have no security interest. You can't do anything, buddy. All right. Well, you have a good day, sir. You as well. In the contracts. End them. And not one judge will adjudicate otherwise, especially when the vehicle has business license plates attached to the front of it, and that business vehicle information appears on the policy enforcement, traffic infraction, and business activity within the state. Section 16, eminent domain. Whenever an attempt is made to take private property for a use alleged to be public, the question whether the contemplated use to be really public shall be a judicial question and determined as such without regard to any legislative assertion that the use is public. An application for a driver's license is a request for permission to provide a service driving for someone else who has agreed to remunerate the driver in some fashion, whether that be for a business outright or a business colorable. If a person drives for an individual using his own vehicle, he is both the business operator and the driver. If the vehicle being driven belongs to another person, then the driver is driving for some other business. As it pertains to the Motor Vehicle Code, a driver submits to legislative control because of the business venture related use of the roads and highways. This clear? We got it? Constitutional Article 10, 12. Corporations other than municipal. Section 1. Corporations how formed. All corporations doing business in this state may, as to such business, be regulated, limited, or restrained by law. All corporations. I don't see anywhere in here where it says natural living beings. I don't even see in here where it gets to the broad aspect of saying person. It literally goes and states strictly corporations. Anything outside corporations is non-applicable. That's your foundation right there. You got to remember the Constitution, come on, as short corollary. And this is what my problem is. People saying they're constitutional scholars and they ain't teaching this. They're telling people just give up all of your information because it's the law. We got to get to the truth of the matter. Can we please get to the foundation? As a short corollary, saving further comment to this employee-employer status review, Internal Revenue Service Code Section 3121A, wages. The term wages includes the cash value for benefits. If you are, this is great, because if you're operating on the roads or you're traveling on the roads and you are not receiving wages, this is perfect. This is where I'm going to end because we're an hour in. This is perfect here. Watch this. This is perfect here because this is another element that must be met in relation to proving invalid driver's license or speeding or any of these statutes that they bring about you if you're traveling against the prosecutor. Can the prosecuting court prove that you were earning wages at the time of your traveling? Can they prove it? Can they prove that you were engaged not only in transporting goods, transporting persons, but can they also prove that while you were traveling, you were also being compensated in some type of wage? Because it says here, the term wages includes the cash value for benefits. Benefits. Having a driver's license and or an operator's business license is a benefit privilege granted by the state. As such, that benefit has a cash value. As a co-registered owner, you are a co-registered owner with the state. You are no longer the sole proprietary owner of your household good when you register it to the state, because the state takes in a security interest by registration of itself. That security interest is also included in the title of ownership. That's how they're able to tow your vehicle, because you are nothing more than a co-registered owner. If you're, you see how bad it gets. Think about even the aspects of contracts in relation to marriages. Oh, no. Oh, no. Are you the owner of your children when you get into a marriage through the state? Or are you a co-registered owner? It's getting bad. Now you see how deep it gets. I've already gone down this. I'll say this for anybody out there as well. If you have any child custody, child stuff going on with wives, any of that stuff, I have a great zip file that was given to me a while back. I've had it for about 4 years. I've never had to use it. I just saw the legalese in it and knew that it was amazing, and someone could, if needed, I could pass it on. And I've had to pass it on to quite a few people that I've known. So if you need anything in that, I got you. Let's me finish this, and then we're going to be done for today, okay? So as a co-registered owner is then presumed to be actually operating a business. Your marriage is a business. Your driver's license is a business. Having either of the licenses, or presumptively both of the licenses, entitles a person. What person? We talking about corporation? Which person are we talking about here? Pursuant to authority of Title 26 United States Code, to take as a deduction every single dime made in a year as a business expense. Wow. Wow. Big boys. Okay. Now, I see right off the bat, it says, can see a higher power. If you want that zip file, you're going to need to send me an email. My website is all over this channel. You can find it. Okay. What I want to do is I want to before leaving today, I want to ask y'all, is there any questions that y'all have for me? Please put them in the chat. Otherwise, put a 1 in the chat if you found what I gave today useful and beneficial to you, please, if you don't mind. I'll take a second to let that roll through as I take a drink. Just 2 of y'all thought it was useful? Only use your brain and a pig's daughter? That's it? There's 43 of y'all in here and y'all can't put a 1 in the chat for you, boy? Come on now. Give me some. Give me some 1s, y'all. Okay. All right. I feel you, Mike. Okay. I'm not going to harp you then. If you just got here and you don't know anything, what was said, I get it. Knowledge is power, y'all. Knowledge is totally power. Knowledge is the most powerful thing that you can have. It is the most substantive, valuable thing that you can have. Somebody can sit here and be like, oh, yeah, I've got a, it looks cool that Conor McGregor's in that, badass, Lambo yacht, man. I mean, amazing. But, I mean, if we go somewhere and have a conversation and nobody knows who he is at all, and we both go somewhere where both of us are unknown, who are they going to want to talk to more? You see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? If we go somewhere and we're talking and no one knows about any of us and we're just a straight going off conversation, you got Conor McGregor and you got Cameron Wilson. Who do you think they're going to want to probably talk to more once we get into conversations? You see what I'm saying? I don't know. I really don't know. Am I better than Conor McGregor? No, I'm just saying knowledge is the most valuable thing, at least to me. I can't find anything more valuable than knowledge. So yes, I do believe that knowledge is power and ultimate in all, for sure. Me personally. What else y'all got for me before I jet out today? Y'all got anything else? What else y'all got? My music stopped on me. Y'all talk to me now. Okay, I'll give some tips real quick. This is actually part of my series, so I don't want to actually go too long. Or actually, I can go long and I can just edit it out on the back end, so that's okay. Let me do this quick ending for the live stream, and then we'll go on to questions, okay? So give me 1 second. All right, so I just want to thank everybody. This is the end of the session itself, this series. Y'all check out everything in the description below. Of course, you can learn more about the right to travel that is now free. You can also pick up a book if you're wanting to. That's in the description. And then all I'm asking is that y'all sign the traffic law reform. We're trying to really push change within our legislatures, within the understanding within our community, through our law enforcement and our public servants so that we can get the change. And it all is based on knowledge. So appreciate y'all being here with me today. If you want to like, you can. If you want to subscribe, you can. That'd be cool. But either way, all right. Blessings.